good evening, everybody, and welcome to the LSU Insider postgame show for LSU's 4-1 victory over Arkansas at the College World Series. A huge opening win for the Tigers, who now have to be considered the national championship favorites. I'm Zach Ewing, joining you live from Baton Rouge, while Scott Rabelais joins you from a much cooler place, the press box of Charles Schwab Field there in Omaha, live after watching Kade Anderson just absolutely carve up the Razorbacks. And Rab, it's got to be cloud nine for LSU right now.
This was a huge one, Zach. This is one of the biggest openers I can remember for LSU. Reminded me of a game, if I can set the Wayback Machine, 1997, LSU and Rice. LSU won that game 5-4, beating Lance Berkman and the Rice Owls, and went on to win the national championship that year. This was big. As you said, the winner has to be considered the favorite. You knew that coming in. It was the two biggest heavyweights left in the field, number 3 Arkansas, number 6 LSU, and the Tigers got the job done. Doesn't mean they might not face Arkansas again. Doesn't mean there's not a lot of work left to do to try to get to the championship series, but a huge first step. Every time LSU has won the College World Series, Zach, they've won the first game. They've never come out of, it's big. It's really big. And this was a great performance by LSU on the pitching mound, just enough offense to get the job done.
Yeah, we expected a pitcher's duel, and we got a pitcher's duel, but instead of a pitcher's duel between Kade Anderson and Zach Root, we got one between Kade Anderson and the guy who came in for Zach Root, and that
Gabe Gackle.
Gabe Gackle, and that was a little bit unexpected. But the point is, LSU did enough in that second inning. They drew a couple of walks and tough at bats, and they got a hit by pitch. They made contact. They kind of put the ball in play. And sometimes in big games like that, in big games like this, that's all it takes. I mean, if you just look at specific parts of the box score, LSU struck out 16 times. Arkansas hit the game's only home run. They had more extra base hits. Like, you don't think LSU would win this game, but they kind of won all of the little things.
LSU played very good defense. Arkansas didn't have an error, but they had a couple of miscues in the play. A play in right field that allowed Milam to get to second, especially it was 2 in the 8th inning. The play that allowed Milam to get to second, and then he scores on Derek Curiel's 0-2 hit to left field that gets cut off by the freshman pitcher for Cole Gibler for Arkansas. There might have been a play of the plate on Milam had they let the ball go through, but it gives LSU that 4-1 cushion, and they're able to get through the 8th and 9th inning with Chase Shores and with Case and Evans. But I thought I kind of expected a low-scoring game, but I didn't think LSU would be able to hold down Arkansas's offense so well. This is the best offense of all the Power 4 conferences teams coming in here. Season low for runs for Arkansas, and second fewest hits the Razorbacks have had all season. I still think they're a very, very good team, but LSU did the little things. Arkansas just couldn't put enough together. They got the leadoff man on 5 times in this game. The only run that scored was Robinette, who hit the solo home run in the 6th inning off of Anderson. And so they just couldn't put it together, and they're going to rue, wasting a great pitching performance by Gackle in relief.
Just a couple of reminders before we get going. As a courtesy to your fellow media members, coaches, and student athletes,
the press conference going on in your ears. So that's going on in the press box. But just another quick
comment. Please
comment.
provide your name and media affiliation each time you ask a question during the press conferences. Mic runners, please.
I just think Kade Anderson is the story here. He got a couple of double plays.
On Zoom, please use the raise hand function for questions. We'll address
He
questions
works around, pitches into the 8th inning, so LSU's bullpen will be fresh. He did everything you could have asked Coach
Dave Van Horn.
He was tremendous, and after a somewhat rocky outing against West Virginia, the Super Regional, right? I mean, he gave you some polish. He all going into the postseason. He said, "Well, if LSU." Yeah, they look really strong when Anderson and Ianson are pitching, and neither one of them looked super great in the Super Regional. But Anderson was tremendous tonight. Gave up three hits, gave up the 1 solo home run, but kept Arkansas off balance. Threw 100 pitches, struck out 7. He's now the NCAA Division I strikeouts leader for the season. He passed Liam Doyle from Tennessee during the game, and this is what this is a Louisiana kid. This is what he always wanted to do. He always dreamed of doing, to pitch on such a huge stage for LSU in the College World Series. And it didn't get any bigger than this unless you're playing in the championship series, in my opinion, for LSU against Arkansas. Both these teams knew they had to win. That's why they went to Gackel. He had his season-long outing. He threw 6 innings. That's why they got Zach Root out of this early. It was shocking. I think everyone was shocked that LSU chased him so early, that they didn't let him try to work through some minor control issues in the second inning. But that's how big both these teams knew they were. It's like they both shoved their chips to the center of the table, and Kade Anderson was holding the cards for LSU.
That's right. 3 hits in 7+ innings, just the 1 run. And LSU wins this one. Before we let you go, Scott, just real quick, LSU plays Monday night against UCLA. And quite frankly, that one's just as important as this one is, because if you were to lose that game, probably against Arkansas again. And then you're just in the same position as them, where you have to back for consolation bracket without Anderson or without Ianson. So big game sets up Monday, and you're really in the catbird seat.
That's right. If you have a chance, if you can get to 2-0 in the bracket, then you're really in great shape. You only have to win one more game against whoever can fight back to play you. So that's a big one. UCLA beat Murray State today. They look pretty good. They had a big 4-run inning early on. Then they kind of held on the rest of the way. They're a good team. They won one of the best players in the country on their team. Chalowski. I'm trying to remember how to pronounce his name exactly, but they're a good team. And LSU's only played UCLA one time in the College World Series. That was back in 2013, LSU's first game in this ballpark, and they won a game 2-1. I don't think it's going to be a 2-1 game this time, but we'll see Anthony Ianson on the mound, and obviously we like LSU's chances. As you said, Zach, the odds have to be in their favor at this point.
Yeah. UCLA's won all 6 of their postseason games, so they're hot too. I mean, nothing easy, but LSU certainly sitting pretty after the 4-1 win over Arkansas. We're going to let Scott Rabelais get to business there in Omaha. So Scott, thanks for taking a couple of minutes to join us, and we'll let you go. Zach. All right. So letting him go and bringing on Reed Darcy, who's also kind of on location, or off location, I should say. Reed also in the Baton Rouge area. Seeing some of your comments rolling in here. We saw Carol Todd French say go Tigers. Brian said go Tigers. Karen says yay Tigers. So yeah, keep the comments rolling in. If you have any questions, we will do our best to answer them. Reed, how we doing?
Doing pretty good, Zach. That was a pretty interesting game. I was surprised that, like Rab mentioned, I was surprised that Arkansas pulled Zach Root as early as they did. But, I guess then I remembered that Arkansas is one of the deepest pitching staffs in the country. So they had a lot of firepower behind them. And LSU did a good job, jumping on them early so that they, could withstand some dry patches later on in the game.
Yeah. Let's go over that 3-run rally just real quick, because I think it's kind of instrumental in how, how this worked out, because LSU did not tear the cover off the ball in this game. They had a couple of hard hit singles and a double, but I mean, for the most part, we're talking just getting runners on, getting them over, getting them in. That top of the second inning, Milam strikes out to lead off the inning. Luis Hernandez draws a walk. Derek Curiel draws a walk. Then Daniel Dickinson lays down a perfect bunt, and
the most beautiful bunt you could ever have possibly laid down.
Could not have rolled it better. I mean, it was perfect. And so all of a sudden, if you're Arkansas, you feel like Zach Root's kind of in control. He had a good first inning, 1-2-3 first inning with a strikeout. He strikes out Milam. Okay, you walk a guy, whatever. And all of a sudden, it's like 2 batters later, the bases are loaded with nobody out, and you're going, hold on a second here. How did this happen? And LSU, I think it's important to note, they had the bottom of the order due up at that point. But you get Chris Stanfield, base hit to left field. That's 1 run. You get Michael Braswell gets hit by a pitch. Michael Braswell is not this team's best hitter. He's probably the worst hitter in their starting lineup, but he does find ways to get on base. That was crucial. All of a sudden, it's 2-0. Then Josh Pearson grounds out. But what could have been an inning double play, he beats out the relay throw. I thought Arkansas's turn was a little bit slow. All of a sudden, with only getting the ball out of the infield 1 time, and that was on Stanfield's single, LSU had 3 runs. Pretty remarkable.
And that's all they really needed, because Kade Anderson was so good. It reminded me of what Jay Johnson said during the regional. He said that LSU's offense this year is built on walks and doubles. And LSU didn't hit a double in that inning, but It got on base, started off with two walks, and then it just kept the offense moving along. It just kept that traffic, coming right along the bases there. And that's really like the formula of what this LSU offense needs to follow if it wants to get to the championship series, right? The 2023 team had power, right? It could swing for the fences. It could go yard at any moment, right? But this team is built a little bit differently, I think. At the plate, they're more of a small ball team. They're not a full small ball team like Kentucky or something like that, but they are positioned to, get those timely hits. I think Chris Stanfield did a wonderful job in the Super Regional Game 2. He had that hit through the right side of the infield that, opened things up a lot for LSU. And then tonight he had that liner into left field that really got things going for LSU. So I thought that inning was huge. And then when you combine that with how good Kade Anderson was, how much better he was from what he looked like his last two starts, that's really why LSU won tonight and is in good position for the rest of the first round.
Yeah, no doubt. We do want to let you know that our postseason coverage is brought to you by Our Lady of the Lake Health, the official championship health partner with LSU Athletics. So our thanks to them. Our thanks to you guys for hanging out. Continue to show, leave your comments. We'll show them on the screen as they come in. Yeah, and I do. Let's talk about Kade Anderson, the kid from Covington. I mean, what a performance. They said it ad nauseum on the broadcast, but I think it bears repeating. He grew up dreaming of this. Like, this is what Kade Anderson wanted to do, is come to Baton Rouge, pitch for the LSU Tigers, pitch in Omaha, and he did not disappoint. I did not think he was necessarily his most overpowering that we've seen him all year, but he was around the strike zone. He seemed to have really good command. Like, he walked the Aloy brothers in the first, I think, 3 innings or 2 innings, but one in the first and one in the second. But it's like, that's actually kind of smart when the bases are empty. Don't give those guys something to hit. If you end up walking them, you end up walking them. You can go get double plays, which he did that as well. He got one of those in the second. He got another one in the fourth. And then he just kind of got a lot of ground balls. He had 7 strikeouts. Arkansas had a couple of hard hit balls, but only 3 hits, no extra base hits. I mean, Kade Anderson was in control.
Yeah, the breaking balls are really stood out to me. The curve balls, the sliders, just all the movement he got. That was him at his best. The best version of him is when he's mixing in that fastball that it's 94, 95 range, and then he hits you with that curveball with so much bend. It starts way up here, and then it drops all the way down here, and it just confuses hitters so much. I think that's really him at his best. That's why he's probably going to be a top 10 pick in the draft this year as an eligible sophomore. Just how much he's grown in over a year is really impressive, and especially tonight. But just like trying to put that performance into context. Is it 3 hits, 1 run? Am I getting that right, Zach?
Yep.
Arkansas is they have the best batting average in the SEC, top 15 nationally. They are top 5 in the country among Division I teams in home runs total and home runs per game. They're top 5 in just runs total. So they are one of the best hitting teams in the country. The numbers show it. They've got the bats, they've got the power to swing for the fences, and Anderson didn't really let them get too many barrels on balls. I think that's the product of how well his off-speed stuff was working tonight. It was masterful performance. It was everything LSU could have hoped for him, and now you've got your full pen ready to get you through whatever you need to get through in this first half of the College World Series behind Anthony Ianson Monday night, and then after that.
Yeah, and no doubt about it. Rab mentioned this. Arkansas has not been shut out all year, and this was the first time all year they were held to only 1 run. In fact, they've only been held to 2 runs twice, and you have to go all the way back to February 21st and 22nd. They lost to Kansas State 3-2. Next day, they beat TCU 2-1. So they scored 2 runs, and that was at Globe Life Field, the home of the Texas Rangers. So that was at a major league ballpark all the way back the second weekend of the season. Since that point, they've scored at least 3 runs, and usually a lot more than that in every single game that they've played. So I just a reminder. Now, obviously, this is a pitcher's ballpark, more than maybe what any college team is used to.
But it's not like these guys were hitting it to the warning track. Like, they weren't having these long flyouts that would have been, home runs in most college ballparks. Like, they were hitting them in grounders.
Yeah. There was the 1 home run there in the 7th inning that made it 3-1. And I spoke incorrectly. I was just looking through. They were held to 2 runs one other time. That was at the SEC tournament against Ole Miss. They lost that game 5-2. So they did three times all season where they even held to 2 runs, and LSU holds them to 1 run. So Kade Anderson, big ups to him. Just a remarkable performance. And as you said, Reed, like, this sets them up so well. Like, and I think there's 2 ways to look at this, right? Like, Tiger fans, okay, we're 1-0, and we'll talk about the UCLA game here in a minute, and then also, as we go forward over the next 48 hours or so. But you could look at this from the other way as well. You just took your primary competition for this national championship, Arkansas. You forced them into the losers bracket. They have to play Murray State on Monday afternoon. And of course, you would expect Arkansas to win that game, but it's going to take pitching. Murray State's a team that hits the ball. I would expect Arkansas to put up some runs, but they've still got to pitch 9 innings. So then they win that game. If LSU can beat UCLA, and that's the crucial point in all of this, because if you lose to UCLA, you kind of throw this all back. You're back on equal footing with Arkansas. You've both played 2 games, and the third one is an elimination game against each other. So, you have to beat UCLA. But if you can, then Arkansas's got to turn around Tuesday and play UCLA, use 9 more innings of pitching, and then they've got to beat LSU twice. Okay, so this is not only have you set yourself up for a tremendous run here, but you've put Arkansas in a really tough position, who's your stiffest competition in Omaha.
Yeah, Zach, and you can tell me if you disagree with me on this, but I believe in David Van Horn, part of his calculus of pulling Zach Root so early was that the possibility that he might be able to bring Zach Root back and throw him at the start of a game later on in the bracket, maybe another game against LSU, right? He threw only 38 pitches tonight, and I think he told the ESPN broadcast that, hey, he was in some trouble there. The bases were loaded. There was only 1 out. LSU was reading him well all of a sudden because he was fantastic in the first inning. I mean, he was just at his best in the first inning, and then LSU figured him out in the second. Van Horn said that, with Ethan Fry and Jared Jones at the plate, they really would have only taken 1 swing for the game to just be over. So he wanted to preserve Arkansas's shot at winning that game right then. And it sends to me like an urgency, number one, to win that game. But it also kind of had a little bit of a long-term approach there, so keep his kind of pitch count low, because in case you do have to go through the losers bracket, you'll have him in your back pocket who can give you some more innings later on to try to get to the championship series.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is the time of year that calls for aggressive managing, obviously. And sometimes that means leaving a pitcher who's really dealing, leaving him out there a little bit longer, but it can also mean get that hook out there, because we've got a guy in Gabe Gackle who's capable, and the guy 10 strikeouts. I mean, he was fantastic. In fact, he would have been the story of this game had Arkansas come back and won. But as you said, now you've saved Zach Root. He's probably not pitching Monday, I wouldn't think. And if Arkansas needs him Monday against Murray State, they may be in trouble anyway. But I could see him coming back as early as Tuesday. Let's say Arkansas is playing LSU or UCLA in an elimination game, and you need somebody out of the bullpen. Like, you could see him coming back as soon as Tuesday and pitching several innings. And if not then certainly against in the kind of the bracket final against UCLA or LSU on Wednesday and or Thursday, I think he would be certainly capable of coming back at that point. So that's kind of one strategic point here. And as this week takes shape, it's super interesting. From LSU's perspective, like, you're throwing Einstein out there Monday. This now becomes the biggest game of the year, because as Scott said, like, yeah, you want to win that first game. They showed it on the ESPN broadcast. Like, I think 22 of the last 24 CWS winners won their first game. But the truth of the matter is, and LSU experienced this 2 years ago, if you lose the second game, you're kind of right back in the same boat as if you had lost the first game. You're not saving it. Like, either way, you have to win. I think you have to play 5 games to get through your bracket to the finals if you lose either of those first 2 games. The real advantage doesn't come in unless you go 2-0. And that's why you throw Einstein out there. You do everything you can to beat the Bruins on Monday.
And this is why it was so important for Kade Anderson to go 7 innings tonight, because he went 7 innings. You had Shores going 1 inning,
through 10 pitches.
10 pitches, yes. And then you had Evans coming in through 13 pitches. So theoretically, both of them could come in and relieve Anthony Einstein on Monday. if you needed them to, right? So
Yeah.
Ianson gives you that, and then you've got your full bullpen behind him. So yeah, I mean that was exactly what LSU needed from Kade Anderson. It was just another layer to how important his performance was. Sorry, I'm getting Slack notifications. I'm just getting bombarded with them.
It's an important night here at the
yeah,
end.
I know.
Trying to keep up with everything going on in Omaha.
Yeah. Anyway, so I just thought it was pretty wild, how Arkansas was just, I guess, just starting to figure out all of the movement on Kade Anderson's pitches. The breaking balls starting off high and then dropping, and then LSU pulls him and puts in Chase Shores, who just is pumping 101 past you. It's just a pretty disgusting mix up there of pitching talent. It's a pretty strong card that Jay Johnson has to pull there if Chase Shores is throwing strikes. And I thought he was tonight. He was pretty good tonight.
Yeah. He looked really good. The other thing that we should mention, and look, LSU benefited from this, but Arkansas maybe even benefited more. Their pitching staff had 16 strikeouts. The zone was pretty big tonight. There was a lot of pitches that were like a baseball off the corner that were being called strikes. I thought it was consistent, but it was big, and that helped the pitching staffs. There were several times. I mean, poor Jared Jones struck out 5 times tonight.
That last one, the check swing, I never really got a good.
I don't understand how you don't at least appeal that call to the first base umpire. I don't see it. It was not an obvious enough swing to where the home plate umpire should have made that call without appealing. And then I think he caught kind of a bad call, maybe not for strike 3, but like to put him behind in the count in one of his earlier at bats. So kind of a rough night for him. But if you think about it, for LSU, there are no style points in Omaha. Come on, you just want to win the game, and they didn't get a lot of style points on offense tonight, but they won the game. And so you kind of look at it and say, look, Jared Jones had a terrible night. Stephen Milam, he struck out twice early, but he came through with the double in the 8th inning. They didn't have. The only extra base hit they had was that double by Milam, and you could have argued, Reed, that should have been a single and an error. If the right fielder comes up with it cleanly, Milam's got to stop at first. They gave him a double, but they didn't have anything approaching like a ball off the wall or anything like that. They still win the game. So now you kind of figure like, hey, our best ball may be in front of us this week, and we're already 1-0. Arkansas is already in the losers bracket. Let's go to town. And also, I did want to talk about Derek Curiel. Yes. First College World Series game for the freshman. He walks twice early, and then in the 8th inning, he falls behind 0-2 against the Gibbler, the Arkansas freshman, who was just striking everybody out. Mm-hmm. But Gibbler throws Curiel a couple of breaking balls that he swings and misses at. 0-2, he looks overmatched, and then all of a sudden, the third time he tries it, Curiel says, no, you're not going to fool me 3 times, and he laces it the other way into left field for a huge RBI hit, a huge insurance run. And so that was just kind of emblematic of what LSU was able to do at the plate in the big moments.
He's been awesome this postseason. I don't have his full numbers on me, but he and Stephen Milam have just been exceptional. I thought it was fitting that both of them teamed up to give LSU that insurance run later on when Milam had the double or the single on an error, and then Curiel hit him home. And that's just who he is, right? He's a freshman, but he doesn't hit like a freshman. He's super smart. He's super mature at the plate, super disciplined. So he takes pitches and he reads them so well. He'll walk if you walk him, and if you give him a pitch, even if he's down 0-2 in the count, he'll still swing, and he'll still drop a line drive opposite field and give an LSU base runner what he needs to get home. So he's been huge. I think because he's so mature as a freshman, that's just another added weapon that LSU has in its order. Because if he was a freshman, like a normal freshman, and he's shaky and he's intimidated by the moment, then the LSU lineup loses a lot of juice. But because he's so poised, it's now got a much higher ceiling. And I think Jay Johnson calls him the engine of the offense for a reason. He's been doing that all postseason, starting in the SEC tournament, going through the regional, the super regional. He's really been at the top of his game. He's really hitting his stride at the perfect time. And it's really impressive, really rare to see from a freshman.
You are watching the LSU Insider Postgame Show. It's brought to you by Our Lady of the Lake Health, the official championship health partners of LSU athletics. I'm Zach Ewing with Reed Darcy. Just going to go on for another 5 minutes or so here. We talked to Scott Rabelais live from Omaha earlier in the show. We're going to have post-game shows for you after every game LSU plays in Omaha. And I believe now, I was looking at the schedule earlier this week, and I believe now that LSU has won this game. They will play nothing but night games, Reed, except for the possibility of game 2 of the championship series is on a Sunday afternoon if they do make the championship series. So that would be a day game. I, for one, appreciated a 2 hour and 40-minute ball game. That was like anything LSU had done all postseason. So let's go on that.
I thought it felt kind of quick. I didn't realize it was that fast. I didn't.
No, it was fast. The top of the second was long. You know, LSU had all those long at bats. The pitching change for Arkansas. Then you had the weird delay where Gabe Gackle had to go change his shoelaces. It was like a 5-minute delay in the middle of an inning. It was like you can't wait till after the inning to change your shoe. So, but even besides that, the game, I mean, it was like through 7 innings before you hit the 2 hour mark, and the last innings always take a while. But that was the pitching was so good on both sides. LSU only had the 4 hits, but they drew 8 free passes. They made the most of all of that. They got a run without the benefit of a hit. That third run in the second inning. Actually, the second and third runs in the second inning without a hit by pitch and a fielder's choice. And they just kept Arkansas off the board. I mean, Arkansas got the solo homer. That was it. And so just to kind of update everybody on how things go now in Omaha, tomorrow it will be the left bracket that will be in play again. So you'll have Arizona play Louisville at 1 p.m. in an elimination game. So you'll be down to 7 teams after that game. Then you have Coastal Carolina and Oregon State in the big 1-0 game to see who can take control of that bracket. Then Monday, it will be back to LSU's bracket. You'll have the elimination game between Arkansas and Murray State at 1 o'clock. There might be a few LSU Tiger fans in the house rooting for the Racers. I'm just guessing that might be the case. And then LSU and UCLA will tangle at 6 p.m. If LSU loses that game, they have to turn around and play again 6 p.m. Tuesday in an elimination game against whoever wins Murray State versus Arkansas. But if LSU beats UCLA, they get Tuesday off. They would play Wednesday against the survivor of the losers bracket, and they would get 2 chances just to beat them once in order to make the championship series.
Yep. And then the championship series, it's really going to come down to all teams that are seeded lower than LSU. You know, that's the other side of the bracket. That's why tonight's game was so important, because you're playing Arkansas, the only team that's seated above LSU, and really the 2 co-favorites going at it. If you can get this win and send Arkansas to the losers bracket, then it's huge for LSU's chances. Obviously, I like how you mentioned at the top that LSU is most likely the favorite now.
Just looking at that actually, Reed, and before this game, Arkansas a very slight national championship favorite over LSU. I think Arkansas was like right at about 2-1. LSU was like plus 230, plus 240, depending on where you looked. And so Arkansas was the slight favorite. Not anymore. LSU plus 125, almost even money favorite now. So that means you would basically only win a little bit more money than what you wagered if you bet on LSU to win it all. Coastal Carolina is the second favorite, plus 360. Then Oregon State plus 425. Then it's Arkansas at 6-1 and UCLA at plus 650. The other 3 teams, Arizona, Louisville, Murray State, are all long shots at this point. So, if you needed numerically to see how big of a win this was, just look at that. LSU goes from basically their odds to win the national title are cut in half. They're down to plus 125. And you took the other favorite, Arkansas, and made them from the favorite to a 6-1, more of a long shot now.
Yeah, pretty remarkable that this team is so well positioned to win a national championship in 2 out of 3 years. I mean, it's pretty impressive. Obviously, a long way to go. And I think, they are in Omaha, which means you can throw out the seedings, the little numbers next to each team. They matter less and less and less as the bracket goes on and as the postseason develops. But I think if you look at LSU, the hitting can come and go, but what always going to be there for you is Kade Anderson and Anthony Eidson. And when those 2 are at their best, LSU is really, really, really tough to beat. I think you saw that tonight. A red-hot, a really good hitting Arkansas team couldn't touch Kade Anderson, and that's probably the main reason why LSU is so well-positioned now, and Arkansas has to scratch and claw their way out of the losers bracket to get to the championship series. So we'll see what Ianson does on Monday. He'll have a little extra rest. I think if he can give you 6-7 innings, then that's really all you need. And then anything the hitters could give you, if you're an LSU fan, is pretty much lagniappe at that point. As long as those two arms are holding down opposing offenses, LSU's in pretty good shape.
Yep, no doubt. We will have a short preview for you on the LSU Tigers at NOLA.com YouTube channel and also on Facebook, probably tomorrow, but maybe even Monday morning we'll do that and kind of preview that LSU UCLA game. And then, as mentioned, we'll have a post-game show Monday night. So just quick recap tonight. LSU beats Arkansas 4-1. Kade Anderson, 7+ innings pitched, just 3 hits, 2 walks, 7 Ks, 1 run against one of the best lineups in the country. LSU, they only scratched across 4 hits, 3 singles and a double, but it was enough RBI hits from Chris Stanfield and Derek Curiel and a couple of other runs coming across without the benefit of a hit. And that means LSU will play UCLA on Monday in a game just as big as this one. I want to emphasize that because we talked about those odds. You can throw all that out the window if LSU loses Monday. They're right back kind of where they started and facing elimination, most likely against Arkansas on Tuesday if they cannot beat UCLA on Monday night. So that one's huge. UCLA, by the way, played one SEC team this year. It was Vanderbilt back early in the year. Vanderbilt won that game 8-3. So they have not faced SEC. They have faced good teams. They faced Oregon, Oregon State, UC Irvine, and then obviously everything in the postseason. But this is a lot of SEC fans will tell you it's different, and they did lose their only SEC game. That was back on February the 28th. They lost 8-3 against Vandy. So we'll give a full preview of that, as I said, over the next coming days. But until then, thanks to Scott Rabelais for joining us live from Omaha. Thanks to Reed Darcy, and our thanks to Our Lady of the Lake Health, and to everybody coming and hanging out with us tonight. Congratulations to LSU, 4-1 winners over Arkansas. I'm Zach Ewing, and we will see you next time on the LSU Sports Insider.